Hi guys, and we are on step number 5. We've gotten a huge amount done on our narrative writing. We have a huge direction where we're headed now. So you already know, you have your idea. If you look here, you already have your idea, and you have your main character. You have where it's located at. You have your location. So you have some big, major elements. The parts of your story done, finished, good, awesome. So that should be like, whew, I have so much done. That is a huge amount done. I'm very proud of you. Let's keep going. Now, we're going to look at setting. Kind of what's the summary of your story? I want to kind of know the plan to your story. What would be the major points of your story? Because you need to think this out. You need to think about the beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay? So what's going to be happening to this person? We already know that they broke their arm, but that doesn't tell me what kind of happened in the beginning. Where'd they go in the beginning? Or where'd they go in the middle? What happened at the end? We know the locations. So we know some bits and pieces, but you haven't really sat down yet and really thought about what's the problem in our story, what's the solution, the problem, and how do we fix it, what's the concern. A concern could also be a problem. Like, it doesn't have to be a major problem, it could just be a concern. And how do you fix it? How do you resolve it? How do you get to a happy spot? And once you hit that happy spot, kind of how do you want your story to kind of wrap up and kind of move towards its conclusion? Conclusion being, we're not something we're going to focus on in this video in any way. But we're getting so much closer, because now you need to think of your story arc. The arc of that story. What's the beginning, kind of what's the middle-ish, what's the end. We talked about, how to create a story map, and all the planning and the pre-writing and the thinking that needs to go into what you are writing about. Okay, so you know your elements. Now, how are you going to string all those elements together? And I kind of like using the somebody wanted, but so then idea to kind of get you to go through the whole entire story, that story arc. What's the main points of your story? From the beginning to kind of the middle to the end, you're going to be thinking about the problem, how you're going to fix it, and kind of how that all wraps up. This is going to be a longer video. Remember, please, anything that isn't dark green, don't mess with it. I didn't point this out, but if you are looking at the things that are dark green that have copied over from other pages, and you don't like it and you want to change them, what you need to do then is you need to go back to the original spot. So your idea, so if you said, I want to change my idea, I don't think I like it, then you need to go back to step 1 and change it. If you want to change who some of your characters are, then you need to go in and you need to go to that link and change the characters here on this page where it's dark green. Please do not change them anywhere else on here, because it'll actually just mess the whole thing up. Don't change it here. Go back and change your characters someplace else. Go to who are your characters. You can change them, but they have to be dark green before you can change them. If you want to change the location of the stories, change them here. Please don't change them in any other spot, because all you'll do is it'll show up differently. So if you change the green, it'll change everything else in this document. So if I change, let me show you here. Let me go to, and I name her, and I say I want Bob instead of Kim. So then if you go there, you will see that it automatically changes to Bob. So if I change the green, it changes everything else in the story for you. Okay? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change that back to Kim, because the main person in my story is Kim. Alright. So, somebody. Since I have everything starting to pull some of the major elements, like the main character, your setting, your idea, those are your elements. I have most of those kind of laid out for you. So your somebody in here is going to be your main character, the person that you see through the whole entire story arc. So Kim, and what did Kim want? Well, what I wanted in this story, and you're going to have to think about, what does your character need? What does your character hope for, dream about? And in this case, didn't want to get in trouble. To get in trouble. Okay, that's what she wanted. Okay, that's what I wanted. Okay, but the problem was somebody wanted, but the problem. So what did I want? What was the problem? But I broke my arms on the swing set in the playground, on the playground. But that was the problem. Okay, so I didn't want to get in trouble, but the problem was that I broke my arms on the swing set. So I went home and hid in my bedroom. That's kind of how I'm trying to deal with it. So what did I do to try to fix this? You know, hid in my bedroom from my sister and the babysitter. Okay, that's what I did. Because I didn't want my sister to tell on me, I didn't want her to try to find me, and I didn't want the babysitter to ask questions, so I kind of sneaked past her. So somebody Kim didn't want to get in trouble. I did not want to get in trouble. Problem was that I had broke my arms on the playground swing set. And so how I tried to fix that was I went home and hid in my bedroom. Okay? Then, well, the babysitter eventually found out. And talked to neighbor, who took me to the hospital. So that's kind of what happened next, all right? So that's kind of like how the whole story kind of evolved. I don't have an ending on this necessarily because it isn't gonna have an ending here. It's just kind of the story arc. You know, I broke my arms, hid, and then I went to the hospital. So those are some of the major things that kind of happened within that story. Again, you want to be able to plan the story, you need to know what's going to happen in the beginning, you need to have a problem, and you need to have the solution. How are you going to fix it, and how are you going to make that resolve, and then kind of what happens after you try to fix your problem. What then happens? Now, this isn't a complete story, because there is no story that's only like 5 sentences long. I'm certainly hoping your story is going to be much longer than this. This is where you're going to have to start really digging in and giving me some details. So now we have the rough draft of our story. We kind of are heading that direction. So you kind of have your summary, just your overarching story arc here. You know, Kim, if I said, hey, tell me about your story, what are you going to write about? You could say, hey, well, my story is about Kim, and she didn't want to get in trouble, and she broke her arms on the playground. Then she hid from her family, and they found out anyway and took her to the hospital. So kind of that's the story arc that kind of happened on the story. So make sure that you kind of fill that out. It'll help you kind of think through your story in an organized fashion, because you need to make sure that that's very planned out. Because unfortunately, you cannot have a story that you go to bed first, and then you get up, and then you go to bed and eat breakfast. It has to have an organization to it. It has to make sense. It has to happen in sequence meaning first, then, next, last. It has to happen in some sort of sequential order. And it has to make sense. Okay? So that somebody wanted, but so then kind of helps you think about what's going to happen in your story. The major points in your story. Okay? So if you have any questions, let me know. This is an area sometimes where you kind of get stuck trying to figure out where are you going with your story, what's that story arc going to look like, particularly if you have a story that you're actually making up. So this page you might spend a day or two on just kind of finessing, fiddling around with it, trying to decide, you know, how do I want my story, how do I want my character to solve the problem? What is the problem for my main character? So what do they want? The problem, you know, somebody wanted. The problem is the but. So how do they fix it? And then what happens after they fix the story, fix your problem, get to a happy spot, get to a contented spot. Okay? So somebody wanted, but so then. Think about it. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, the somebody, the wanted, but is the problem, so is how do you fix it, then is kind of what happens after all of that has happened. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be around. I'm really, really happy with where your guys' stories are going. You need to keep lifting, keep going, because we're heading into our introduction. All right, see you soon.